You are listening to Thinner Peas and Menopause with Dr. Deb Butler. This is episode number 245. I've got another success story, and it's all about honoring your own commitments. Welcome to Thinner Peas and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. If you're a woman and you're smart and you're successful and you've been struggling with weight your whole life and now menopause is making it harder than ever, and you are ready to make this the last time you ever have to go on a diet again, then this podcast is for you. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. How are you today? I'm so excited to introduce you to another one of my beloved clients. I know I always say that to you, and I'll tell you what, every time I say it to you, I always mean it. And today I want to introduce you to Lisa. And I'll tell you one thing about her before you listen to the interview, because this is what amazed me the most, is she actually has 5 kids at home under the age of 11. Her beloved mother also lives with her, and she has a husband. And prior to working with me, probably one of her biggest problems, she told me, was number 1, being able to make herself a priority, and number 2, being able to honor the commitments that she made for herself. She was really, really good at making commitments for all her kids and her mom and her husband. But when it came to her, it just went down the toilet. And that's part of the reason why she hired me. So when you listen to this interview, I just want you to be aware of where she came from, because when I first talked to her, she didn't know the first thing about how to do this for herself. And you're going to hear in this interview how she figured it out. And a lot of it had to do with our working together. And the other thing had to do with her being able to actually make a commitment to herself and honor it. And it was a beautiful process to watch. So sit back, lay back, take a walk, take a drive, whatever it is you're doing, and listen to this interview with Lisa. And when we're through, I'll get back on and I'll say a few words about it. Enjoy. Hello, Lisa. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi, Dr. Deb. I'm glad to be here.
So just a little preview for everybody that's watching this or listening to this. We did have an interview last week also. And unfortunately, right in the middle of our interview, my internet went totally out. So here we are again to redo what we did. And what I think, usually when I have to redo a video or a podcast, it's usually because it's going to be better the second time. So that's the way I look at this. And you've got so much good stuff to share. So I always like to start with, where were you before you called me, and what made you want to work with me? Where were you?
Well, I really felt like I was at a really low point in my life. My mother had moved in with us.
Yep, I remember.
And I have 5 kids who are 12 and under, so my house is crazy anyway. Mm-hmm. I had lost weight a couple of years prior and then gained that and more, and I was at my heaviest that I've ever been. Mm-hmm. I felt like I was failing at everything, that I couldn't keep commitments to myself. I couldn't keep commitments to anybody else. I felt like my word meant nothing. I just felt like there was every area of my life I felt needed attention and work. And I didn't know where to start. So I was kind of a self-help junkie. I read lots of books and listened to lots of different podcasts, and I'd start one thing and then I'm like, oh, messed up on that. I guess I'll go try something else. And, I just flit from one thing to the next thing without really sticking with anything long enough. And I knew all of that, but I just couldn't quite get myself unstuck. And I just felt so terrible about myself in the process.
Yeah.
I just was at a point where I just couldn't stand all those thoughts that were spinning in my head all the time anymore.
Mm-hmm. And so what made you decide to do a mini session with me?
Well,
you were listening to my Were you listening to my podcast?
Well, a little bit. I had heard an interview or something from the life coach school with you.
With Brooke.
Mm-hmm. And then I started listening to your podcast, and the fact that you did one-on-ones and it wasn't a thing. I had tried not a few, but I tried some group things before. And I felt like, the minute that I didn't do what I was supposed to do for one day or whatever, I just kind of faded myself into the background and just left, and nobody noticed. Yeah. And so I really didn't trust myself. And so I knew I needed accountability. And I felt like a one-on-one was really, really what I needed. And I reached out to you partly because I was a little scared of you.
Oh, why? You got to say more, because maybe there's more people out there who are scared of me.
Well, I was a little scared of you because I felt like you call a spade a spade.
Yeah.
And I knew I needed that. And I knew I needed to really face things that I didn't necessarily want to face.
Yeah.
But I felt so bad about myself and was so judgmental about myself. I was a little bit afraid of being judged by somebody else. But at the end of your podcast, you always say, whatever you do, be very, very kind to yourself. And
that's right.
Kind of the two things together were what made me reach out to you. And, to fast forward, you never made me feel like I was being judged, which kind of surprised me. It was never, it was great. I never felt like I was being judged. So, but I also had an idea of what the program was going to cost. And I was pretty much right on the money. And I was a little afraid of that. But like I said, I was at such a point in my life where I just couldn't go on anymore. And I just felt like that this was something that I needed to do.
So you were a little bit afraid of the costs, but you decided, you tell me if I'm right or wrong, you decided that you felt miserable enough that it was worth maybe making that investment in yourself to try to help yourself, like you would do for your kids.
Right. It was an investment that I needed to do. I really felt like what you were offering was really what I needed to do. And I was tired of searching all over everywhere else for all the other options or whatever. And I just wanted to do something. We were starting the whole pandemic was when this.
That's right. Yeah.
And I also felt like that maybe it was a really good time.
Great. Yeah.
Of what was just going on with me, but also the fact that everything was at a halt. My kids weren't having as many activities, and I just felt like it was a really good time to accomplish something.
Yeah. So it's always good for people to hear, because during the pandemic, you could do as much negative stuff to yourself because you have more time or whatever, or you could use it as a time to benefit yourself. And it seemed like it was such a beautiful thing for you to decide to do that for yourself at that time.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah. And it really was the beginning, because what I remember the most about you in the beginning was your fear and your lack of trust with yourself about making your own commitments. I think that's the first thing you said to me is, I just don't keep my commitments. I don't even know if I know how to keep my commitments. And I know all of that has shifted totally. And so I want you to talk a little bit about how you went from not trusting yourself and not being able to honor your own commitments to actually being able to trust yourself and know that you can honor your commitments.
I think the first step was just the first assignment that you gave me, which was the food journals. And I was afraid to commit to every day for the week. So I committed to, I don't know how many, 3 maybe. And
that's right.
And then I ended up doing them all. And I found out that it really wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't as terrible. Like I said, you never really judged me. So once we got to the end, you were really good about reminding me of the accomplishments. And before, I was always looking towards how much further do I have to go?
That's right.
And where have I come from? And
that's right. I remember.
It was much more fun to look at it your way.
That's right. And so I think that's really good for people to hear, is that the only reason I think it was so hard for you in the beginning to trust yourself or honor your own commitments is because you were always looking for what you were doing wrong, and that you weren't doing enough, and that it wasn't good enough. And I think what you're saying is that when I started coaching you, I started being able to shift your mind into looking at how really wonderful you are and how wonderful your life is. And it wasn't that hard of a shift for you. It's like, oh, you mean like wow, I said I was going to do 3 food journals and I did 7. And it's almost like you realize that maybe you were just being so hard on yourself that it was hard to actually meet up to your own expectations.
Oh, absolutely. And then whenever, anyone else in my family particularly, had any kind of criticism, it was just like piling on top of me.
Yes.
I had to shift that perspective for myself.
Yeah. So like when you say that, I remember we did a lot of, just like you thought I was going to judge you.
Right.
You thought everybody was judging you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think a lot of people who are watching this or listening to this are in the exact same boat. Is when you think other people are judging you, it's usually because you're judging yourself so harshly.
Right.
Right. And so like my guess is like, I don't think you think other people are judging you so much now, because I think you're judging yourself so much less. Tell me where I'm wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I remember like when I first started getting on the call with you, you would just be exasperated all the time. I go like, how are you? I go, you would just go like that. It was kind of that kind of a sound every single time. And by the time I would say we were in the middle of the sessions, I would say, hi, Lisa, how are you? And you would just go, great, fantastic. And it's like you had shifted your thinking so much that you were actually starting to enjoy the life that's always been there.
Right.
I could tell that you were enjoying it.
Yeah.
And yet your kids were still the same.
Oh, absolutely.
Your mom was still the same.
Yes.
Your husband was still the same. And you were feeling amazingly better.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, like when I think about in the beginning, one of the things is, first of all, is you were meticulous with doing your food journals and always getting them into me. And I think that was the beginning of you realizing that you could do what you say you're going to do. It's like it became important enough to you. Right. Like instead of thinking, oh, this is too hard, I don't have enough time, which is I think where you used to live, is there's so many people that need so much from me, I don't have time for me.
Right.
I think you shifted it into, I have to make time for me.
Right.
Yeah. Tell me about how you started with all these people in your house, how you started prioritizing yourself.
I mean, I would just slip into my office and I would, jot things down. And I didn't always do it right then when I was eating, but I
don't have to.
And see, that would have been my before thinking, oh, I didn't do it right then. Well, then I messed up.
Exactly.
And you were like, you did them. I was like, yeah, but I didn't do them the way I was supposed to do them. And then you're like, I just realized that what is this supposed to? I did them and we're getting value from them. So there, it's much better.
Right. And this is all about, and I think one of the reasons that you said that you wanted to work with me is because of the way that I end my podcast with, I want you to be kinder to yourself. Right. And as people are listening to you talk, that's exactly what you're talking about now, is you started becoming kinder to yourself. And instead of whipping the chains all the time, like do it better, do it harder, do it more, it's like maybe, at least this is my perception, is it was like you just kind of calmed down a little bit. And it's like, you know what? It's enough what you're doing. Like getting those food journals done is enough. But you were going, well, it wasn't like this and it should have been like that. And that's what was happening to you and happens to so many other people, is as soon as they find out they're making a mistake and they're not doing it right, they want to throw everything away.
Right.
So how did you go from trying to be perfect to just getting it done? Because it made you feel so much better when you started thinking that way.
Well, one of the things that you said to me early on, we would talk about like losing weight in the past, or, have you been at the weight that you want to be before, and how did you feel? And I was like, I was never there, even if I was at the weight that I wanted to be, there was always something else wrong. And so it was really hard to just enjoy the wins and the journeys. And I basically just did what you said. And sometimes it was just like, okay, this is the way I'm supposed to think. This is how I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to judge myself. Or I'm going to, my natural reaction would be to judge myself. But then I would quickly look back and see how far I came, or look at the positive, what did happen, and just kind of just throw out the other stuff. And I was a little bit worried that, if you don't have, perfection to look towards, you become complacent. And that actually has not been the case. So
it's been the opposite.
Actually been the opposite. Yes, I've been able to stick with something longer than I've ever sticked with anything before. I've been able to bounce back, from something that I didn't want to do or whatever that I did much quicker, or even period, bounce back.
That you can bring yourself back.
Yeah.
Right? That you can bring yourself back and do it without punishing yourself. And so you can get right back on the horse again, basically speaking.
Yes. There were some things that you said, I can't remember exactly the words, but, if a thought is making you feel so terrible, even if it's true, what's the point of thinking it if it makes you feel terrible? Isn't there another thought that could make you feel better? So
That's right.
Yeah, there's really no upside to making yourself feel bad.
That is a very good point, because I think a lot of people who are listening, and I do believe for you, before working together, you thought there was an upside.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Right? It was how to get perfection from yourself is by beating the crap out of yourself to get perfection, right? And all it brought was that you just kind of felt miserable all the time. That's all you got from it, is feeling miserable and feeling like you couldn't follow through with things because you were constantly judging yourself.
Right.
So tell me where you are now.
Oh, gosh. Well, my life is kind of the same.
Yeah, your life is probably the same. You still have 5 kids.
I have 5 kids. My mother still lives with us. She still does the same things that she was doing before.
That's right.
My husband is working from home.
Yep.
Decided to homeschool our kids this year. And I honestly believe that at this point in that journey, if I had not been with you before, that I would have been defeated by now. I mean, it has been a struggle, and it's been frustrating a lot of the time. But one of the things that was really an aha when we were doing the mind-body
chart. Yeah.
This was kind of in the middle when we were doing it, and you'd asked me to give you a number value from 1 to 5 on, where I was on these different metrics.
Right. So let me interfere for 1 minute, just so everybody knows. When we're talking about a mind-body chart, it's something that we do when we're in the middle of the program, when we start either deciding to take sugar and flour out of the diet, and we start to note how things change in your life, from your mental to your physical to your spiritual. And so that's what you're referring to now when you're talking about the mind-body chart. So say something about it. Now go ahead with it.
Well, I would give myself a number, but I would like 3.5, or 2.5, or I could never get myself up to a 4 or a 5. And you would ask me, you sound so good. Why are you just giving yourself a 3 or a 3?
Yes.
It be a 4 or 5. And I was like, well, because 4 or 5 is like perfect. And I'm not perfect yet. And everything isn't daisies and roses or whatever you want to call them. And so therefore I can't give myself a 5. And you're like, well, who says you can't even give yourself a 6 if you wanted to? So it was, again, that same thing of looking back from where I came, not that unattainable perfection ideal, and measuring myself up against that. Mm-hmm. And so now that we're doing this homeschool, I have in my mind, I think probably anybody who embarks on something new has in their mind about the picture of what they would like it to look like. Well,
of course.
Not yet. And it might never look exactly like that picture in my mind. But if I keep going through every day and every minute looking at how far we are from that picture in my mind, rather than the fact that none of us have ever done this. I've never done lesson plans for 5 kids. I've never tried to get them all to do them at the same time. And the kids they haven't had to be accountable to me for school, and they haven't had to be accountable to themselves for school, because we've always been in the public school before.
That's right.
It's new for all of us. And if I would be comparing myself up against that ideal, I would be defeated by now. But when I go back and look from the fact that we started with nobody knowing really what we were doing.
That's right.
Now what is beginning to happen, and it's happening at different rates with different kids, and it's happening, differently for me, that we've come a long ways. And that's encouraging, even though maybe the moments to moments are frustrating when I'm trying to herd cats and, sit down, do your...
That's right. Yeah.
So it's certainly not pretty all the time, but I would have been defeated by now, I think. And now I'm just like every day, every moment, okay, right, remember where we came from. We started from nothing. And now what's happening? I have a couple children who are actually enjoying reading where they've never read before, never liked it before. And one kid is actually sitting down and doing work without me having to be over her shoulder all the time. Mm-hmm. And so they're moving forward and they're progressing.
Well, this is the thing that I want everybody to hear. It's the way you're thinking that has changed. It's the way you're talking to yourself. It's like you're now, because this is one of the things you developed while we were working together, was self-compassion.
Right.
And what I hear from you is self-compassion for yourself. And the way that you're thinking is, look at you. You started, you know nothing. You knew nothing about how to do all of this. And yet you were willing to go in there and do the work. And without making yourself have to be perfect or with high expectations, you started seeing how things were working instead of seeing how things weren't working. Right? With all 5 kids, because anybody here who's listening to this and thinking about homeschooling 5 kids probably has some thoughts about it. And knowing you the way I knew you, it's like when that wasn't even going on, all you could see was how things weren't right. And I want everybody to hear that this is not the Lisa that I started with.
Right.
For you to be able to give yourself this gift of being able to give yourself the benefit that you're doing the best that you can, and that you've taught yourself how to do that. And you've taught it by food journaling. You've taught it by being willing to be coached by me and be open to the things that I'm saying to you. And that I know that whatever I suggested to you in terms of homework, you always did it. And for people who are listening to this about you, Lisa, what you have to understand going into this is you just have to decide that you're willing to do the work. Right. Imperfectly, and I'm sure I said that to you, yes. Imperfectly as it may be.
Yeah.
That you'd be willing to do it. And I think every time you took one step, you were able to take another one. Mm-hmm. And so where you are now is you've got this self-compassion for yourself. You've lost weight.
And I'm continuing to lose weight. So.
And I remember what you said when you had lost, I don't know how much weight you had lost, but I remember you saying, I just can't believe it's this easy.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been quick. I mean, there were several weeks at the beginning, especially when I didn't lose anything at all.
That's right.
And the other thing about imperfectly, one of the things about the food journals is that I did make a commitment to myself to be honest and to
not
immediately try to change my eating habits. I just wrote what I ate down, and I didn't always like it. So I was willing just to open up and do that rather than just to, because you probably could for a while anyway. I mean, A, Y, B, you could just grit it out for the first 3, and just not eat all the stuff that you normally wanted to do. But I knew that wasn't going to get me where I wanted to go. Another thing you said at the very beginning, we were talking about, what it would look like, success would look like for me at the end of the program.
Yeah.
And we were talking about pounds lost. And I probably threw out a number, and you probably said, well, what if it was this? Which was like half probably of what I said. I don't know. Uh-huh. And I said, well, if I can sound like the women that you've interviewed and be so confident that I could lose the rest of it, that I guess that would be success. But in my mind, I'm going, there is no way that I'm going to be confident if I lose that number by the end of this 12-week program, that I would actually be confident that I could do the rest. And it's actually true.
It's true.
It's true. I mean, by that point, and it was so funny because it was almost right on the money with the number that you put when I got to that point, and I did pass that point when I was working with you. But when I got to that point, I was at the point where I was actually feeling like that I could do it. But it wasn't fast. I mean, fast in my mind of what I thought was before, lose 10 pounds in 2 weeks.
That's right.
It didn't happen that way, and it doesn't continue to happen that way. It's like down, 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 up, 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 down, down, down. But if you look at the line, it keeps going down. So yeah. So the confidence that I can continue on and do it.
And be as happy as you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's really a great way to end this podcast is that you have learned how to lose weight, because you did say, I can't believe I could lose this weight and feel this good. Right. Yeah. And so a lot of people equate losing weight with it's good if it's fast.
Right.
But I think the reason that you were saying it and that you were saying that it was easy is because you felt so much better and that you were really eating the way you wanted to be eating and you were treating yourself the way you wanted to be treated by yourself. And so I think that you have a confidence that you can continue doing that.
Right. Yes.
Right? And so what would you say to people, and maybe they can hear it in your voice, what would you say to somebody that was where you were, miserable, suffering, thinking they could never do this, thinking about their failures? What would you tell them that might help them take that first step?
Oh gosh, it's completely worth it. And it's not just about the weight. I mean, that certainly is a big part of it. And but it's much more than that, because you can feel miserable and be skinny. And it is just so much more than just about the weight, and what you teach and the process that you do it. It seeps into all aspects of your life, and without anything else in your life changing, like everything around me hasn't changed. Yeah. Everything that used to frustrate me before still frustrates me, but call Dr. Deb and make the investment in yourself. You will be surprised at how worth it is.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Lisa. I've loved every minute of working with you, and I miss you.
I'm going to have to come back at some point for something.
Well, at least just to say hello and connect. But, I've just loved every minute of it, sweetheart. And thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Dr. Deb.
Okay. Well, everybody, what did I tell you about Lisa? I know she's really amazing. And I guess the thing that even as you listen to this interview with her, the thing that continues to ring true to me when I hear her, because now she makes it sound like it's so easy to do all these things for herself and that she doesn't get frustrated as easy, that everything in her life has become easier when everything in her life has stayed the same. And the beauty of all of that is that she's learned, as she told you in the interview, that she's learned how to think about things differently. And what she's learned to think about the most different is how she views herself. So if this is something that you want for yourself, then you know what? You can do what Lisa did. She set up a mini session. We talked. I knew I could help her, and she knew I could help her. And that was the beginning of this journey that you just heard. If that's what you want for yourself, please go to drdebbutler.com/work with me. And you can do the same thing for yourself. And as always, you know what I'm going to say. No matter what else you do this week, please, please, please be very, very kind to yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. If you're loving my podcast and you would like some more information to be able to follow along with, then please go to drdebbutler.com/change, and you can get a free copy of my companion book that goes with this podcast that I refer to in many different episodes. That is drdebbutler.com/change, CHANGE.